Grassley, as always, sir, thank you for coming on. Could you respond? You've sent David Weiss, this is according to our David Spunt, you sent David Weiss a letter asking them to explain whether it's an open or closed investigation, or what else did you put in that letter, Mr. Grassley?
Well, we're trying to get information of the exact role of this Assistant U.S. Attorney Wolf in this 1023 document and the follow-up of that, because we know that she was involved in cutting short some of the investigations done by the IRS, and we want to know what sort of a role she played in whether or not the accusations of these telephone calls that you've already referred to was followed up properly. And we need to know this because we want to make sure that there's not two systems of justice, one for Republicans and one for Democrats.
This, Assistant U.S. Attorney, Senator Grassley, Wolf, she's working for Merrick Garland, too, right? Just like Weiss. So she could be, on the politicalization or the weaponization charges?
Well, we know what the whistleblower from the IRS investigation said, that he wanted to investigate certain things at a home in Virginia, other things, and they said you can't do that. They said also that you couldn't ask questions about the so-called big guy, and everybody knows what that's a reference to. And so just exactly what role does she play if she stopped investigations of some of the things that the investigators at IRS wanted to follow up on? What was followed up on the 1023 in regard to the FBI investigating whether these phone calls actually took place? We've got to know what the FBI doing. Is it following up the way they should follow up, or are they sweeping things under the rug to protect somebody?
Senator, I want to get to the Burisma story in a second, sir, but I just want to ask you this. You talk about did the FBI follow up? I still can't figure, and I'd like to know. Now, Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, I believe is going to appear before Jim Jordan's Judiciary Committee, I think, sir, on Wednesday. But look at the FBI, from all accounts, Senator Grassley, has stopped, obstructive, slow walk, done everything they can to deny or prevent these 1023s from going public. Don't you find that remarkable? And don't you find that objectionable?
Even more remarkable is the fact that I've made public that Representative Comer and I have read an unredacted document of the 1023 that we're talking about. And then, in order to satisfy the House, they thought they could get away with bringing that document up to the SCIF for members of the House Oversight Committee to read. And then guess what? The line talking about the 17 recorded phone calls was redacted. It wasn't redacted in the document that I and Comer read. And so I hope Wednesday somebody in the House committee will ask Ray why that was redacted for the House to see, when I know what those lines said. 17 phone calls supposedly recorded by somebody in Ukraine, 2 of them with then Vice President Biden, and 15 of them with Hunter Biden.
So you have seen that from the 1023. The FBI says it doesn't exist, or they just redacted it. The reason is, I don't think there's anybody alive who doubts your word. No one messes with Senator Grassley, including me as a small fry. But the fact is, you believe, you're saying you saw references of these 17 phone calls, 2 to Joe Biden, 15 to Hunter, that was in an FBI 1023. You saw them, and you're sticking with that story.
Well, not only that, but Congressman Comer saw the same one. We saw it from a whistleblower who we must protect these whistleblowers, and the document is not in my possession, but I had an opportunity to read it as slow as I wanted to thoroughly understand it. And these lines about the 1020 in the 1023 referring to the telephone recordings were not redacted in the document I read. Why was it redacted when the House of Representatives Oversight Committee had an opportunity to read it in the SCIF?
All right. Well, somebody's going to have to account for that. Senator Grassley, where are these tapes, these audio tapes? What's happened to them? What's the guy's, you know, this is a Burisma oligarch. Nobody can find him. He's on the lam with his tapes. He may be at the gambling casino in Montenegro. No one knows where this guy is. How are we going to find him? This is probably the most important political event in this story, and maybe one of the worst corruption scandal in the history of the United States.
Well, only the FBI can answer that, and I don't have an answer from the FBI. Did they follow up, or did they show their usual political bias and shove it under the rug?
Well, what do you think? What do you think? You think the FBI has the tapes? Do you think there's only one set of tapes? You're a pretty smart fella, and as I said, no one's going to mess with you when you get your backup. What's happened to these tapes?
I want the FBI to tell me, because that's the only place I can get the information, because they have the responsibility to investigate. Remember, 1023 is an unclassified document. Larry, you should be able to read it as much as I can.
Yes, sir.
And it has these statements in it. And how is the FBI following up? My oversight of the FBI is important, because we have to have enough FBI that the entire United States can have confidence in, and they need to rebuild this confidence. And one way to rebuild the confidence would be very open, make this unclassified document available to 330 million Americans if they want to read it.
Well, I presume that Jim Jordan, when he reconvenes on Wednesday with Christopher Wray, the FBI director, I assume Mr. Jordan, who's a pretty smart fellow himself, is going to ask him directly, where are these tapes? Because you've seen them. You know they exist because it was in a 1023. FBI can't hide that. You, Chuck Grassley, are vouching for that. So Ray's going to have to fess up, or all hell's going to break loose.
Well, they have subpoena power. I'm a Republican member of the United States Senate in the minority. I don't have subpoena power, but I want to thank Chairman Comer for working with me to break this loose to the extent to which it is. Now, I'm still working to get this 1023 made public so, Larry, you can read it.
All right, I'm dying to read it. I absolutely want to read it. Jamie Comer has done a great job. They've all done a great job. You've done a great job. Ron Johnson's done a great job. The extraordinary thing to me, I mean, you know, we all grew up loving G-men, the FBI, and I'm sure that the agents around the country are pretty good. But I'm also sure, Senator Grassley, that this Washington FBI office has got to be completely, utterly changed, okay? Swept through, new groups, new everything. I mean, I think that's the end of the story. I'm going to give you the last word on that one.
I think just the 7th floor of the FBI building is the one where the culture has to change. Nothing has to change the grassroots of people investigating crime in America. They're doing their job the way it should, but they're being hurt because the FBI at the 7th floor of the FBI building has a culture of political bias.
Yes, sir. Senator Chuck Grassley, thank you, sir. We appreciate you very, very much coming back on the show. All best of luck.
Thank you.